The Restitution of Land Rights Act, that's number 22 of 1994, was passed to great applause in that year. Its goal was to offer a solution to people who had lost their land as a result of racially discriminatory practices such as forced removals. Now, in his January 8th speech, President Jacob Zuma insisted it is time to return the land to our people, and has called for the need to make meaningful progress on land reform and the restitution program in 2017, in line with the Constitution, I must add. Now, in 2016, the Indigenous First Nation Advocacy South Africa group formally lodged a constitutional court challenge on land dispossession and the Khoisan Identity. Now, joining us in studio is the Executive Chairman at IFNASA, Anthony Philips. Philip Williams. It's Philip Williams. Philip Williams. Morning, Philip. How are you?
Well, you are.
Now, it's time to return the land back to our people, is what the President says. Do you think the Khoi and the San and the descendants of those communities are part of this plan?
Well, we would hope so. We would hope that the Khoi and the San forms a critical part and critical mass of the discussion. I think it's important that we, that we start at the beginning and say that IFNASA would gladly support the President in the whole idea of returning the land to the landless people, the landless masses of Africans of South Africa, in particular, to return the land to the Indigenous people, in particular also the Indigenous First Nation, because we firmly believe that we're all Indigenous Africans. So there's no argument with regards to our intrinsic link to one another. But what we are saying is that the Khoisan people in particular have had to deal with some very strange behavior from various bureaucrats. And that's some of the things that we need to correct. We are supporting the President to redistribute the land without compensation.
Now, a little bit earlier on that score, the Boer Volksraad, they came on here and they said that is a declaration of war, firstly. And secondly, that they bought most of the land legitimately from groupings like the Khoisan and other indigenous tribes through trade agreements and other stuff. And they've got a historical record of that. What do you say to that? Firstly, the war, but also the fact that they got the land by lawful means.
It would be unfortunate that we stoop as low as declaring war. Civil war in this country has been averted, with some very beautifully by those who liberated this country. So it would be very unfortunate if that's the thinking from this particular organization. Very sad. But I think it's important that we need to engage them, that we need to talk through what they're saying, because what they're saying is, I think they've got great legitimacy, that there are lots of land that was bought by them. But now what they don't understand, what they should understand, is that much of the land has been acquired through conquest, and legally so. The legal system has been increasingly used, in particular during the 1800s, has been used, for land conquest. And so therefore it is nonsensical to think that you can just declare war, or you're going to, that you say that you declare war when you ask your land back. Mess of the land has been taken by involuntary from the people, and we need to return that. So what are they saying to that?
Yeah, they say, of course, that they want to either be compensated or they go to war. But that is that. Let's talk quickly about your engagements with government and why you find yourself in the Constitutional Court.
Well, it is important that you negotiate and then you come to a place where it seems like you're not finding one another. And that's the reason why we decided, let's get some legal platform and a legal interpretation of what we are saying. And so that's the reason why we believe that the Constitutional Court is possibly one of the avenues, but it's not the exclusive and the only avenue. We have subsequently, as IFNASA, have had some serious interrogation with regards to what it is that we're looking for. One of the questions that all the guys on the ground are asking, what land, do we want? What land are we talking about? Because there are lots of different people now, nationalities, in particular the indigenous African people at large is on the land. Are we saying that we want them off? Because that will be nonsensical. If NASA cannot support anything to that extent, there is what we call coexistence, which is important. We're also calling on the government right now, we're calling on them for a land needs and rather a systemic land needs and land rights commission that must be called into life.
So this commission that you're talking about, you want this commission to do a proper audit,
absolutely,
and a proper needs analysis, and then in an effective way redistribute land to those most needy communities.
Absolutely, and I think the operative word is called systemic land needs, land rights redress commission that needs to be called into life, because there's vast amount of land that's laying all over the place. But nobody can say here right now, here's empirical evidence that, scientific evidence that this is the amount of land that we have. So we need that land to finalize the land audits. But we need this commission to sit down so that we can have an honest discussion as to what land we're talking about, where is this particular land, who owns the land, and then how do you do and go about with the redistribution.
Now, the Khoisan identity question, the land restitution question, and the dispossession question, are you confident that you'll be able to have this adequately addressed?
Absolutely. I think what IFNASA has now done is we are just in the process of developing a new platform which is called a dialogue that specifically looks into identity and race. We believe that racial categorizing is at the heart of the problem. And therefore, we're saying that racial categorizing is perpetuating racism. And we don't believe, as we said in previous interviews, we don't believe there are black people. We believe that we are all indigenous African people. So that label that we have put on, and this is a label, by the way, it's a colonial label that has been put on all of us. Some have been made colored, some have been made so-called black people, some have been made white people. What is this? It can't be, we can't leave it uncontested. We have to look into that, and we believe that part of what we are developing will change all of that.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Philip Williams, he's with IFNASA, and they've launched a constitutional court challenge to deal with the Restitution of Land Rights Act of 1994. Thank you very much for being with us. It's an interesting how the land issue is going to play out. We're asking a lot of questions. Maybe you can stick around and see what our viewers are saying. Of course, we're running a poll, and